The most beautiful and profound emotion we can experience is the sensation of the mystical. That is by Albert Einstein. Hello, I'm Libby's father. Since 2006, I've just had some kind of strange divine encounters, some mystical experiences of my own. I'm going to put that information into a book. A Belief in Nothing, Interrupted. Introduction. I'm still going to have a relationship with my daughter. It's just going to be different. In an absolutely stunned state, I said those words to my daughter's students who were gathered in a large hall next to the church after my daughter's funeral. Even though I didn't and couldn't have realized it at the time, that idea was the beginning of the end of my belief in nothing. Now, based on my experiences over these last 10 years, as I've described in this book, I have a belief. Actually, I have two beliefs now that I didn't have before. One belief I have now is that there is a supernatural realm. There is a realm that is above and beyond our present understanding. A realm that departs from what is usual or normal. A realm that appears to transcend the laws of nature. A realm beyond the visible, observable universe. A realm that has no scientific explanation. A realm that is extraordinarily non-material, yet physically real. The other belief I have now is that thoughts are things. I've heard folks like Tony Robbins preach about the beliefs and an individual's potential. I had dismissed his premise as another get-rich scheme shrouded in altruism. You will see in this book, though, examples of how my thoughts did lead to something concretely tied to those thoughts. During those last 10 years, I have kept a diary. It is a diary filled with remarkable paranormal events that have happened over those years since we lost our beautiful Libby on Saturday, January 14, 2006. Looking at the completed handwritten diary, I was convinced I should copy it into a more formal text, a book, because those events, when taken in total, can in no possible way be mere coincidences. I have decided, along with the paranormal accounts, to tell a little about what a wonderful living person Libby was, because I hope Libby's baby daughter Kira reads this someday. I'm also adding some scientific info, as I was a science teacher and I have been doing paranormal related research of late. Oh yes, and some nice images. Kira Ray. Proceeds from this book, by the way, will go to a college fund for Libby's daughter Kira, my granddaughter. Stanford, Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Duke basketball. Supernatural literacy. The diary entries, when taken as a whole, are evidence to verify the validity of my proposition that there is a supernatural realm. The evidence is, of course, empirical. The evidence is based on my personal, first-hand experiences. Consequently, it cannot be expected that readers will believe in the supernatural realms based on reading my accounts in this book. I feel the only way a person can form a belief in the supernatural is by personally experiencing paranormal events the way I did. I sincerely hope readers will ponder the accounts of messages, signs, premonitions, prophecy, precognitions, forewarnings, or foreknowledge in chapters 19 to 28 in my diary and use them as a what to look for if they are attempting to gain a supernatural literacy in their own lives. Testimony. My new belief in strange magic, ELO, fitting music. With a swear on Libby, by the way, all accounts in this book are true, even though some may seem far-fetched. I won't blame anyone for being skeptical. We have all seen grainy YouTube videos showing ghosts, for example. Broad psychics are almost an institution. I was skeptical or even cynical once. Incidents did happen just as described, and I have formed a belief that there is a supernatural realm, a fourth dimension. I feel also that there may be a connection between a person's thoughts and their destiny. This book is my testimony. Foreknowledge. This diary entry is about the butterfly brooch. my family has many art creations made by me scattered around in their homes. Wood carvings are my main art form, but I do line art as well. Early in January 2006, I saw a beautiful butterfly brooch at a store in Desert Hot Springs, California. The metal brooch was about the size of an adult hand, golden color, with 1 centimeter sized glass gemstones of various colors. It was so unique that I bought it, thinking I would include it in a wood sculpture creation for Libby. I took it home and was thinking of ways to create an art piece for her. The butterfly brooch was on the kitchen counter next to the phone when I received an early Saturday morning phone call from my son Keith saying that Libby had a stroke late the night before. I grabbed the butterfly brooch, not realizing it would be the last gift I would ever give Libby, my cell phone and other stuff, and headed out. I had a very difficult 8-hour drive ahead of me. I stopped at a local Vaughn supermarket on the way out of town. Sadly, my cell phone was primitive with no camera in 2006. Once I caught on that something was going on, I bought a smartphone and was able to record some of those incidents, starting with entry 28. Winged spiritual messengers. Like everyone, I have always loved butterflies. I now have a newfound appreciation of butterflies. Overwhelmingly, cultural myth and lore honor the butterfly as a symbol of transformation because of its impressive process of metamorphosis. The butterfly is the embodiment of transcendence more than any other life form on Earth. Scientific research also has shown that the butterfly is the only living being capable of changing entirely its genetic structure during metamorphosis. The dragonfly's DNA is totally different from the caterpillar's. The butterfly is to set aside everything that was once known and embrace an entire new way of being. That is why butterflies are closely tied to the idea of spirits and souls. To Native Americans, the butterfly is believed to be a messenger from the spirit world. I can still see the butterfly brooch sitting there by the phone. I see it as I answer the phone on that terrible morning. Buying the butterfly brooch and setting it by the phone, then getting that call? Come on. By the way, butterflies have a relatively short lifespan, and most live only for a week or two. There is a message in that fact as well. Love Eternal music message. When I went into the Vaughn supermarket for my traveling supplies, there was a familiar song playing on the store speakers. The song was I Know You're Out There Somewhere by the Moody Blues. My children listened to that group a lot when they were very young. I had that group's songs playing on my truck tape player a lot, and actually they had no choice in the matter. Here are some lyrics from that song that mean so much to me now. I know you're out there somewhere, somewhere, somewhere. I know I'll find you somehow, somehow, and somehow I'll return again to you. The words that I remember from my childhood still are true, that there's none so blind as those who will not see, and to those who lack the courage and say it's dangerous to try, well, they just don't know that love eternal will not be denied. Phone call. Even though I was extremely distraught, I still was able to sense the possible implications of the fact that I Know You're Out There Somewhere was playing at the supermarket. I had a very foreboding feeling about things. I am now driving to San Francisco Bay Area from Palm Springs, some 500 miles away. I stopped for gas, letting the pump run to fill my tank. The pump stopped automatically at $37.37. I took note that was Libby's age, 37. It was cold and rainy off and on that terrible Saturday. Then there came an extreme, thunderous, almost blinding downpour. Just then, on my cell, my daughter Heather called to tell me to hurry, that Libby was not going to make it much longer. If I didn't realize it then, that we are all just one phone call from being brought to our knees, I knew it now. Forehead kisses. Finally getting to Libby's hospital bed in Burlingame, I immediately put the butterfly brooch into her right hand. I pulled her hair back and kissed her forehead over and over again. I kept telling her how proud I was of her. I clasped her hand and told her to please squeeze my hand back. Sadly, she was not responding. I left after a while to go see Libby's baby Kira in the hospital nursery, but I only wanted to go back to Libby's bedside. We received a second and third opinion over the next 24 hours about Libby's condition. The doctors told us that she had a stroke as a result of preeclampsia and had been surely brain dead since Friday evening. Libby had put on her California driver's license organ donor. As far as I know, her heart is still beating in someone, somewhere. All of the family, including her husband Eric, sat with her while she was on life support that last unbelievable, sad day. I kissed her forehead 37 times, saw the butterfly brooch was still in her hand, and told her I would be talking to her at Windy Point, a spot in the California desert close to Palm Springs. I still cry thinking about that goodbye. Libby, as you danced in the light with joy, our love lifted you. As you brushed against this world so resiliently, you lifted us. Side note to Libby and Eric's daughter Kira. Libby lived for 3 days after giving birth to you. She commented to your father Eric how much love she felt holding you. Returning to California after seeing Libby and the services, I was surprised to see by chance this prose by John Keats in a book. I'm sure that is how Libby feels about you, Kira. For myself, I know not how to express my devotion to so fair a form. I want a brighter word than bright, a fairer word than fair. I almost wish we were butterflies and lived but 3 summer days. 3 such days with you I could fill with more delight than 50 common years could ever contain. From your mother to you, Kira. Side note to Eric and Kira. I had been working on and finished a large wood sculpture in 2005. Originally, the wood for that sculpture was one single large block of wood salvaged from an old railroad bridge in Ventura, California. The finished piece was about 3 feet high with LED lighted waterfall and crystal cave. It had a lighted laser etched glass cube that changed colors at the top of the base. It was my best carving so far. I had decided then that I would put together all my pieces I had and begin to sell my works of art. I showed my works of art to an art dealer in Idlewild, California, a small tourist destination in the mountains above Palm Springs. My mother is buried there, by the way. The store owner loved my plain wood carvings, and they did sell well. One actually sold as I was bringing them into the showroom. The store owner rejected buying the large lighted piece, saying he was very religious, and the lights in that piece made it too New Age for his liking. I attempted several times to sell that piece and had interest in it. Through a series of odd turns, I never sold the large piece, even though I did sell all the others I had finished. So I feel the 3 trees piece was destined to end up, Eric and Kira, with you guys. The large wood piece has 3 trees, 2 large and 1 smaller one. The 3 trees representing Kira, the smaller tree, and Eric and Libby, the 2 larger trees. Libby's students. Since Libby had family and friends in California and Idaho, we decided to have 2 services for her, one in each state. Her first service in San Bruno, California was, of course, very difficult. Her Mills High School students filled the church to standing room only. Libby was an AP biology teacher at that top-ranked public school in Millbrae, California. A magnolia tree is now growing there at Mills with a plaque in Libby's memory. Before the service, a student told me that it had been announced over the speakers at a Mills High School basketball game that Libby had died. I met the teacher who was the substitute teacher for Libby while she gave birth. The teacher told me she was, ironically, a grief counselor in her normal job. The teacher told me that her expertise was so very much needed by the students after hearing the news. Destiny and a thought. After the services, everyone filled a large hall next to the church. There were handwritten messages on poster paper posted all over on the walls in there by Libby's Mills students. The messages were all about how loved Libby was by her students, all about how she had left footprints on their hearts. There were hundreds of messages like that. One message I remember explained how their class had encouraged her to choose Kira as Libby and Eric's baby's name. I walked around the hall. There were about a dozen different groups of Mills students gathered. I introduced myself as Libby, Miss Hamilton's father, and thanked them for their wonderful messages. I also told each group this: I'm still going to have a relationship with my daughter. It's just going to be different. I still don't know how that idea came to me in the state of such sorrow, but it did. Now, looking back, I'm sure it is the most profound and meaningful thing I have ever said. By the way, I love you, Mills High School students of Miss Hamilton's. Even though I don't know you, I'm certain that you are a very, very special group of young adults. Libby had mentioned to me several times about how odd she was with the responsibility of working with such bright, gifted AP advanced placement students. Think different. Libby loved Apple computers and had a collection of Apple computer posters. On the posters were people who were the crazy ones. People crazy enough to think they could change the world and ended up doing so. Thomas Jefferson, Albert Einstein, Amelia Earhart, James Watson, who co-discovered DNA. He's pictured here. And others are examples of those posters. All the posters had the words "Think Different" on them. Was Libby forewarning us? Yes, Libby. We are going to still have a relationship with you by thinking different, by watching and detecting carefully. We will be open to the idea of messages, signs, premonitions, forewarnings, and foreknowledge. Some of those that I have experienced will be described shortly, starting with entry 19. Priceless moments. Libby's second service was in Moscow, Idaho. Libby graduated from the University of Idaho there. She often said it was her favorite town. Libby absolutely loved mushroom hunting around Moscow in the spring and fall. Moscow is uniquely situated between the Palouse-rich farmlands to the west and the pine forest to the east. On a fall mushroom hunting trip through one of those forests one day, Libby and I found an elusive coral mushroom. Coral mushroom is an appropriate name because they look as if they are a very small coral reef and white in color. This one weighed about 3 pounds. Libby reacted with such joy upon seeing it. We had such a wonderful day in that forest and driving and talking. Isn't it funny how it's not the days or even the years we remember, but the moments? The butterfly counts not weeks, but moments, and has enough time. Heather's talk. Didn't you just love what they stood for? From the song Abraham, Martin, and John by Emmylou Harris. Libby's younger sister Heather gave such a nice talk at the Moscow service. She mentioned Libby's happy way, her sense of humor, and her accomplishments. Libby, 1986 graduate of Merced High School. 1986 Merced County Open Division Tennis Tournament Championship first place. University of Idaho bacteriology degree. Her work in genetics at Stanford, receiving her master's degree and most outstanding thesis award at Notre Dame de Namur. her teaching AP Biology at Mills High School as a first-year teacher. I asked Heather to include the fact that Libby had been selected most athletic at her Merced, California high school, 4,000 students. In her talk, Heather left that out, so I'm including it now. Did I mention 4,000 students? If you think there is only beauty in living a long life, think again. A shooting star has a short, beautiful flash, no? Okay, let's see. A sickly child who barely survived infancy later becomes most athletic in a high school of 4,000 students. Varsity tennis, basketball, and softball. She receives a college tennis scholarship, earns bachelor's and master's degree with a top-ranked thesis, works in human genome genetics project at Stanford, becomes advanced placement biology teacher to gifted high school students in a top-ranked school. Libby, wow. In a spirit world, I'd imagine you'd be the same force to be reckoned with. Fields of grain. The town of Moscow is surrounded by fields of grain in the summer, but this was not a Moscow summer. It was gray, cold, and snowing there off and on that January day. Towards the end of the service, the sun broke through brilliantly. The church's stained glass windows just lit up. Libby's favorite town glistened with ice and snow, as I know she had seen it many times. This area of Idaho is known for the wild wind that blows. It is where Libby met her future husband, Eric. The reason I'm mentioning this is explained later. I had a handmade stalk of grain, wheat, in my hand during the service. Made out of small glass beads, it had been given to me by a cousin the night before. I wasn't really sure why she gave me that odd item. To my amazement, the priest, when talking about the circle of life, gave an example of how a stalk of grain goes through its life cycle, with the seed beginning a new life. This is exactly what happened with Libby and Kira, I was thinking. At the cemetery, I handed the stalk of grain to the priest for him to keep. Carefree Highway Days. We would make annual summer trips to this area of Idaho from California to visit my family when my kids were very young. Canadian folk singer Gordon Lightfoot's music was often on my truck tape player. Songs like Peeking Down Through Fields of Grain and Carefree Highway were, Trust My Children, playing a lot during those Idaho trips. We call those days now the Carefree Highway Days. There were lyrics on Carefree Highway that went like this. Morning I have the blues, from my head down to my shoes. Carefree Highway, let me slip away on you. We can sure relate to those lyrics, all of us who took those trips with Libby all those years ago. Blinking house lights. After the Moscow, Idaho service, my son Keith and I drove back to his house in Merced, California. The Moody Blues song, I Know You're Out There, somewhere had been on my mind. The fact that that song had been playing at Vaughn's was so eerie. It was encouraging, though, for me in the sense that it might have been a comforting message from Libby. It had me thinking about the possibility of supernatural signs. I never did believe in miracles, but I have a feeling it's time to try. I never did believe in the ways of magic, but I'm beginning to wonder why. By Fleetwood Mac. That night, I asked Keith to download that Moody Blues song onto his laptop. He did. He put the song on repeat and went out for a nighttime bike ride. As I listened to the lyrics, I remember thinking that I hoped Libby could hear the words as if they were coming from me. Suddenly the lights and TV started to blink off and on. The TV blinked maybe 3 or 4 times, then went off completely. Other lights blinked longer, but they also went dark. Only a small table lamp by the laptop now was blinking. I knew I had an interesting situation. I wish Keith could be there to see it. so I sat and listened to the song repeat for about an hour. The table lamp blinked the whole time. Finally, Keith returned home. I told him that I hadn't checked the fuse box because I wanted him to witness what was going on. It was a strange scene, and Keith agreed it was. Indeed, very odd. All the while, I Know You're Out There Somewhere was playing. We then checked the fuses, and all were blown except for the table lamp outlet. Keith said that had never happened before. Music and signs. The next morning, I went to a Merced music store to buy the Moody Blues CD to play in my truck. Keith's laptop wouldn't burn. When I walked into the store, I heard the lyrics, "Butterflies are free to fly, fly away, highway, bye-bye." I checked later and found out that was an Elton John song, "Someone Saved My Life Tonight." The butterfly brooch, Bond's supermarket, Keith's house, plus other events, and now this? I am, for the first time in my life, struck by the possibility of supernatural signs. Giving Libby that butterfly brooch is so on my mind now. I found this saying later when on a Google search that is very helpful. A butterfly lights beside us, and for a moment it belongs to our world, but then it flies away, and though we wish it could have stayed, we feel lucky to have seen it. Surviving. Ever cried for a whole day? When I left Merced to drive to Southern California, all the emotion of the last days could not be bottled up any longer. I cried the whole trip home and couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop. Maybe I remember, one way you survive losing a daughter is to have a release of pain and sorrow like this. Gather up your tears. Save them in your pocket. Save them for a time when you're really going to need them. A song by the band Perry. 6 years later, and I have survived, but will never fully recover from the loss. I have cried hundreds of times and am now. We love and miss you so much, Libby. Libby. It's as if a star has been plucked from the sky. The sky is now dimmer. Classroom. I was working in a museum education program here in Southern California and returned to work right away. I told my teaching assistant about Libby's services and the interesting signs I had been getting. "Oh my," she said, "my daughter was singing a song about butterflies this morning." When the first group of students came in the classroom, we both gave each other a look when a girl walked in wearing a shirt with a large butterfly on it, and the caption read, "Freedom." I recently came across this quote that is an interesting outlook. What the caterpillar perceives as the end, to the butterfly is just the beginning. Kissing butterflies. The next morning I woke up, of course, thinking about Libby. I said out into the room, "Okay, Libby, kiss my forehead. I kissed yours so many times at the hospital, kiss mine back." I pulled my hair back. It was so still and quiet I knew if there was even the faintest of kisses, I would feel it. I waited several moments. I felt nothing. No kiss. I said out loud again, "Okay, Libby, is it going to be about music and butterflies, how we communicate?" Later that afternoon, this happened. A man I know in Palm Springs called to ask if I could give him a ride to the local drugstore. His car was not running. I agreed. When I picked he and his daughter up, I noticed the daughter was wearing a butterfly image on her shirt. As she came closer, I noticed it was actually two butterflies. The shirt caption read, "Kissing Butterflies." I said, "Oh my God, Catherine, where did you get that shirt?" She told me she had had it for several years and only lately found it again in her closet. I told her and her father about my talk with Libby about kissing and butterflies that I had that morning. Their reaction was surprisingly subdued. To me, this so-called coincidence was totally incredible. The next day, while playing tennis, a butterfly hovered above the net, then fluttered away. I know this happens often, but my life now has completely changed. Never again will a butterfly, real or an image, go unnoticed by me. Star of David. One morning later that week, I woke up and said, I love you, Libby, thinking those words were making their way up into the cosmos. Later, on my way to the classroom, right in front of my classroom door was a strange Star of David metal medallion on the sidewalk. It was like any Star of David pendant, except it had a heart shape in the middle. I know it was Libby saying she loved me back. My first name is David. I still have that message without words medallion. I didn't turn it into any lost and found at our school. Sorry, somebody. Honey. Libby had a pretty honey-colored cat named Honey. When Libby didn't come home anymore, Honey was lost and looking and waiting for her. Honey finally ran away, no doubt, looking for Libby. We know how you feel, Honey. We know how you feel. Honey never returned. They are probably together again. Thoughts are things. I left teaching shortly after Libby did. I started my own golf cart sales and delivery business. The reason I'm mentioning this is that now I was in a situation where my fate was left up to the four winds about who would be buying the golf carts and to where I would be delivering. What a perfect art canvas for Libby. Can thoughts be projected out into the fourth dimension? I decided one week to add more fruit into my diet. Libby was always encouraging me to eat better. Gas stations and junk food was becoming my habit. That week, I got a call from a man who wanted a golf cart for driving around his farm and packing house. He was an apple grower. He gave me 4 large boxes of apples after I delivered. The delivery was to Wenatchee, Washington. I went on to Libby's cemetery and put one of those apples on her headstone. An apple for the teacher, I figured. 1 week later, with a new focus on healthy eating, I felt sugar was the next challenge. I had to cut down on that sweetener. More honey, I figured. I got a call from a man who wanted a utility golf cart for his business. I delivered the cart to the Barstow, California area. Seeing several outbuildings at his place, I asked what his business was. Yep. To my astonishment, he told me he was a beekeeper. He gave me several jars of honey as a tip. Soon after, while suffering a toothache, too many sugary stuff things lately. Yep. I got a call from a dentist who wanted 2 golf carts. He wanted one for himself and another for his wife for golfing. I didn't use him, but I know Libby was just looking out for me again. On Libby's August 27th birthday, I got a call to deliver a golf cart to Carefree, Arizona. I took note of the Carefree part. Several days later, I made the delivery. To get to Carefree, Arizona, I had to drive on the Carefree Highway. Gordon Lightfoot's song Carefree Highway was named after that road. Desperately, I kept changing stations on my radio while on that highway, hoping Carefree Highway would come on. What a gift from Libby that would be. I was disappointed when the song never came on. The next morning at home, I started my truck and there was the song playing on my truck radio. Wow, Libby. No way. This amazing event was so stunning to me and it brought me to tears. I downloaded some music from another golf cart trip. Butterfly Waltz was one tune that I had to have. Others also, like Little Red Corvette, I burned them onto a CD and headed out. I was turning onto a road leaving Rancho Mirage, California. I had just listened to Butterfly Waltz and was now listening to Little Red Corvette. And just as I was turning, a butterfly flew right past my windshield, literally 1 foot away. I thought, wow. Just then I looked to the left lane beside me and a little red Corvette sped past me, going on ahead. Thanks, Libby, but it is hard to drive when looking through tears like these. I need a camera phone. This is the point that I decided to start a journal or a diary. I am fully aware now that something is going on. The man I sold a golf cart to during my golf cart days was a part-time gold prospector in Yuma, Arizona. He told me he would take me out to his favorite gold detecting place whenever I had time. I had found some gold in my rock hunting years, but this man's collection of nuggets was something like I'd never seen before. I bought a gold detector and was planning on taking him up on his offer. I watched a YouTube video about gold detecting in preparation. YouTube was only several years old and is based in San Bruno, by the way. The man on the video seemed so happy. I remember thinking that I wished I could feel that way again. That was my last thought after watching the video, and I headed into a Safeway store. It was a windy day, and as I walked through the automatic doors into the Safeway, the strong wind came along with me. Just a short distance into the store, the wind caused a couple of helium balloons to bonk me on the head. I didn't or wouldn't have noticed these overhead balloons except for the wind lowering them on me. I was startled to see the helium balloons were a butterfly and a happy face. Of course, I saw that as a sign from Libby to be happy again. I took out my iPhone and did get a picture of the sign with the doors were finally closed. Swim goggles. I belong to a fitness club with a lap pool now. I don't eat sugary junk food anymore. A friend of mine swims every morning before work. I had been lagging on swimming even though I was a very fast swimmer when I was young, almost world class. This day, after 2 years of going to the fitness club, I decided I was going to brave the lack of warmness in the pool water and get started and get some laps in. These swim goggles were laying on the sidewalk close to the front doors of the club. I did use them. Sorry, somebody, and thanks, Libby. To our visit. All these signs are helpful, but they don't prevent some sad days, and I was having one. I went to a favorite park of mine in hope that some solace would help. Problem was, I didn't get any solitude. This butterfly kept flying around me for 2 hours. Yeah, I had my iPhone and recorded some. I could have put more than 2 hours video, but that would be kind of long for most folks to watch. My sad day came to an end. Thanks, Libby. And that video is on Spiritual Winged Messenger on YouTube. Bubbles. I was telling my sister on my cell phone while driving, hello, Bay Area rush hour traffic, that I was going to Curious tomorrow to do a soap bubble activity. Just then, soap bubbles crossed in front of my truck, that very second. Kids from a park, no doubt, but I never saw that before in all my years of driving. I had put a laptop on eBay for sale. It was getting lots of bids. Sitting in my truck that day, I was wondering if I should add selling laptops to my business attempts. I love Apple computers and was thinking it would something I would probably do. Just then, a shopping cart came rolling down this slight incline in the parking lot. Without apparent regard to Newton's first law of motion, that states a force must act upon a body to cause it to move, and banged into the front of my truck. Oh, funny, Libby. I get it. Time for the iPhone. Early in 2015, while at Mills High School by Libby's tree, the principal of the school, the athletic director, and I crossed paths. We all came from different directions. The athletic director says to me, "Welcome aboard," as Mills boys tennis coach. Thanks, Libby. Right after that, while teaching at an Aragon High School music class, I met the man who played the piano at Libby's service 9 years ago. He told me Kira could play the piano at his church, St. Robert's, anytime. Strange magic that I met him. In the spring of 2015, I gave Kira a garden art display for her garden. We had just planted a 30-plant strawberry garden several weeks earlier at her and Eric's house in San Bruno. Kira pushed the garden art display into the dirt. Right away, a white butterfly came and fluttered around it. This picture is the actual butterfly. Encouraging. Well, by now, I'm feeling very encouraged by the many strange incidents. I'm still going to have a relationship with my daughter. It's just going to be different, is what I'm feeling. It seems to be helping me in my recovery. I hope these accounts help others, especially those of you that I know miss Libby as much as I do. And with the help of that last sign, I feel I will become happy again. Libby, you were so special, very special. And you were so from the start. You led by example, determination, and heart. Yankee great Yogi Berra said once, "You can see a lot just by looking." What is going on here? Why am I the only one getting these signs? I stumbled onto a quote that best gives my answer. The theoretical physicist, cosmologist, and best-selling author Paul Davis said this: "Paranormal incidents are entities whose attributes aren't there when you don't look, but become there when you do look." Another particular book was an eye-opener. The book is titled Quantum Enigma by Bruce Rosenbaum and Fred Kuttner. The conclusion drawn in this book is that the very act of observing caused a wave function to collapse into particles of matter. The act of a conscious observer creates the existence of the physical objects. Wow on that. When we leave a church, the light coming through the stained glass windows is not there anymore. Quantum Physics Debunks Materialism, YouTube. I have also enjoyed writings by Robert Sheldrake, Dean Redden, and Bernard Carr on the subject of the paranormal. They believe quantum physics theories can be combined with paranormal study to create a sort of paraphysics. Perhaps philosophy, myth, and religion will be taken over by science. I personally don't believe that incidents like those that I have experienced can be included in some kind of radical, new, strange experiment by some maverick scientists. The butterfly by the phone occurrence can be repeated. A laboratory equivalent of the kissing butterflies can be replicated. Specifically testing mysterious blinking lights in a house. Mimic, repeat, or have helium balloons obey the way they did for me in a laboratory context. Morning Girl. Libby was our firstborn. After she was born in 1968, this 1969 song was her song to me. Did she listen as it played? I'm sure she did. Here's why. Morning Girl, Neon Philharmonic, 1969. Morning Girl, how did you sleep last night? You're several ages older now. Your eyes have started showing how. The little girl's growing now. Morning Girl, was that you on the radio last night? Crying and begging for a way to go? To go back where love wasn't jumbled so? Oh no, things are different now than they were before. You know love is more than kisses, a whole lot more. Morning Girl, put your dreams away and read your box of Cheerios and powder puff that pretty nose and go out and find your man where the wild wind blows. Morning Girl. Strange, Libby did go out and find her man Eric in that area of Palouse, Idaho, where the wild wind does indeed blow. Those lyrics were saved in her heart for over 30 years from that song. Morning Girl by Neon Philharmonic, YouTube. Dragonfly Art Piece. Libby worked in the Human Genome Project at Stanford University in 2004. The Genome Project was a very important scientific undertaking. It will be compared someday to the Apollo moon landing feat or the splitting of the atom milestone, I believe. To show her how proud I was of what she was doing, I sent her a DNA double helix art piece I made. The art piece was made out of wood with glass beads on wire, being the twisted ladder DNA molecule. There was a dragonfly attached to the top of the art piece. My meaning was that the DNA molecule represented the DNA of a dragonfly. I don't know why I picked the dragonfly. I just did. As you will see coming up, could this have been a foreknowledge by Libby? Libby had the James Watson of the Watson and Crick Think Different poster in her Apple poster collection, by the way. Watson and Crick were credited with discovering the DNA molecule in 1953. Since Libby worked on the Genome Project and taught AP biology, she understood all the complicated DNA stuff. Come on. Anyone out there understand alleles, genetic drift, unit inheritance, or regulator genes? I thought so. Libby did. Dragonfly forewarning incident. If we have an innate ability to sense the future, as some think, then this dragonfly incident should have been my forewarning. This dragonfly incident is the strangest incident that's ever happened to me personally. And honestly, it is the strangest and most paranormal incident that I have ever heard of. It will take some time to explain, so bear with me. In 2004, I was the director of a locally funded nature education program in Desert Hot Springs, California. Having students find crystals, gemstones, and fossils in wild, harvested dirt brought to the school from different areas of the West was my specialty. Libby wrote her master thesis on my investigation and discovery approach, with her spending a week in my classroom to get ideas. Libby was awarded the Best Thesis Award at Notre Dame de Namur University that year for that thesis. One current project was to find agate gems in dirt brought in from Blythe, California area. The area is called Pebble Terrace. It is an area well known by rock hounds. A side project we were working on at the time was to grow plants in different growth mediums. I thought on the same trip I will bring back some volcanic soil for that side project. Desert Hot Springs has lots of decomposed granite sandy soil, but no rich volcanic soil in the immediate area. I drove out Interstate 10 to Wiley's Well Road, about 20 miles west of Blythe, California. Wiley's Well Road is a dirt road that heads south off Interstate 10. I traveled about 5 miles on that road until I noticed some dark, wet-looking soil that had been plowed to the side of that Wiley Wells Road. The pile was about 6 feet high, and the side facing the road was flat and packed by the bulldozer blade. I took note of the location and drove onto Pebble Terrace about another 5 miles further. Pebble Terrace is an area of about 1 square mile, with small, milky-sized, clear agate crystals all over the dusty soil. It took me only a few minutes to shovel my pickup truck bed about 1/4 filled with the agate material. What fun the students are going to have, using water containers to rinse the dirt and discover the gems. I then headed back towards the bulldozed dirt pile, not realizing the most amazing, incredible thing was about to happen to me. On that afternoon, late January 2004 day, I drove back and parked my truck across the road from the dirt pile I had seen earlier. I had not seen a single vehicle or person so far that day on Wiley's Well Road or at Pebble Terrace. It was so quiet when I got out of my truck. Try to visualize 8,000 square miles of sunlit silence. That is the beauty of the Mojave Desert. I didn't have to look both ways before I crossed the road to look at the dirt pile. In Las Vegas, not that far away, someone pulling a rabbit out of a hat, David Copperfield or even Chris Angel Mind Freak, couldn't top the magic trick I was about to perform. Too bad I didn't pull the handle on a $1 million slot machine in Vegas that day. That would have been nothing compared to what I did do. It is important to remember now that I sent Libby the Dragonfly DNA art piece just 2 weeks earlier. I didn't make the connection to the art piece and what was about to happen to me until years later, when I was driving and thinking about Libby. When I did make the connection, it has affected me more than any other single event in my life. I just wish I had been wise enough to recognize prophecy when it was right in front of me. Libby's younger sister, Callie, told me she also had pre-warnings. She said that the last time she visited a healthy Libby, she had a sad feeling inside her she would never see her again. Okay, ready for hard to dispute evidence supporting the idea of supernatural events? I decided to leave my shovel in the truck for now and just walk over to check out this dirt pile by the side of the road. The dirt was dark, wet looking, and promising. It wasn't the light colored, decomposed granite so common in the desert hot springs area. This looked to be fine, sandy soil, probably alluvial, derived from the many igneous rocks that I could see around. Could many desert dust storms over millions of years added mineral salts from ancient inland seabeds to this mix? The answer to that is blowing in the wind. The soil would make a great, slightly alkaline plant growth medium, it seemed to me. Why I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, why I'm about to push my hand into a dirt pile has been explained. Ready? I picked a spot and pushed my hand chest high into this 6 foot high by 10 foot long smooth and packed dirt pile. I was able to pull out a full handful of the dirt in my right hand. To my amazement, I could see, mixed in the dirt, what looked to be a dead dragonfly. I remember thinking that I had never seen a dragonfly up close. I moved my fingers more, loosening off more of the dirt. Then the dragonfly started to move. I now thought the poor dragonfly was terribly injured because it was just wiggling. I moved my fingers a third time, loosening most of the rest of the dirt to the ground. The dragonfly wiggled even more, then flew off my hand, across the road, zigzagging over the open desert landscape until it was out of sight. It showed absolutely no ill effects of having been packed inside a dirt pile. I pondered what had just happened for a few minutes. How an agile dragonfly could have got stuck in that plowed dirt pile was just one question I had. Did it complete its nymph cycle packed in the dirt that was once mud under the puddle on the side of the road? The pile was damp and wet. I put some shovelfuls into my truck and headed home. There were no more dragonflies in the shovelfuls. As I drove home that day, I just couldn't get over how lucky that dragonfly was. A hand goes exactly into a tiny spot in 1,000 square miles of desert landscape and pulls out a live dragonfly. I am certain that was a 1 in a trillion chance, and my doing that is a first in this planet's history. Looking back, all these years later, with never-ending astonishment, I have named that dragonfly Emily. I have even made up some altered lyrics while listening to an Elton John song, In the Shape of a Dragonfly, for you, Kira. Emily, early in the afternoon, when the cool morning breeze surrenders now to the summer's rage, Emily flies through the sunlit silence, past the tamarisk trees and the desert sage, free to fly away, highway, bye-bye. Forewarnings. Libby died almost exactly 2 years after the dragonfly incident. I didn't connect Libby's dragonfly art piece to the dragonfly incident until years later. Looking back, I can see clearly the butterfly brooch gift, the dragonfly gift, and the incident were possibly forewarnings. If only I had been wiser. Emily, born of earth and water, endured, struggled, succeeded, and then flew away. How was Libby different? What to leave out, what to leave in? All the incidents that happened to me could be classified as messages, signs, premonitions, prophecy, precognitions, forewarnings, or foreknowledge. I feel anyone attempting to gain supernatural literacy in their lives should focus on the types of incidents that I've described in this book. I experienced no ghost sightings, no dreams coming true, no past life memories, no clairvoyance, no time travel, no telepathy, and no levitation. Levitation, I'm open-minded now, but not that open-minded. Einstein said of telepathy in the last part of his biography, "On this I absolutely stand firm. The world is not like this." Thankfully, he left out the kind of incidents that happened to me. Conclusion. I have attributed in this story the strange occurrences to my spirit daughter Libby. I do believe she is the gifted, creative one responsible for the signs or messages. I do still have a relationship with my daughter. It's just different now, I feel. Find the butterfly brooch and the dragonfly incident happened, though, before she died. And they are more of a foreknowledge or prophecy nature. So maybe my mother, who died in 1987, or my father, who died in 1989, are spirits also. However, I really shouldn't be speculating about the source of the incidents. I'm not a psychic, nor do I play one on TV. I'm just reporting what happened to me and hope others can gain some insight about realms that are presently beyond our understanding. I don't believe in paraphysics. I don't believe that's possible. I have seen in my long science teaching career that some things can be learned only by students empirically investigating the world around them. Some things can be verified by observation or experience only, without regard to secondhand logic. So with my what to look for as a guide, I hope readers will seek supernatural literacy by empirically developing their own theories by their own observations. The incidents described in this book have changed my life. I go about my day in a more spiritual manner now, intently watching for and believing in the supernatural, and guarding my thoughts. I talk to my parents and Libby constantly, mostly at Windy Point, and I hope to see them again. I would give up everything I own to have just one more day with any of them. So I guess that is my message. In an alert and very attentive way, look for signs, messages, and forewarnings. Let go to the spirit forces that I believe are out there, and appreciate each day you have with your loved ones. Life is filled with good times and goodbyes. It is good to believe that goodbyes are not permanent. Finally, another note to Kira, who just turned 10 as of this 2016 publication. You are going to have a relationship with your mother. It's just going to be different. Sky Full of Stars, nice song by Coldplay. I too someday will slip the surly bonds of earth and dance the skies on laughter silvered butterfly wings. Sunward I'll climb and join the mirth of sun-split clouds. Hovering there, I'll chase the shouting wind along, up, up into the long, delirious, burning blue. And with silent lifting mind, I'll top the windswept heights with easy grace, where never larks or eagles flew. And with love not being a strong enough word, I'll lean forward and kiss the forehead of an angel. The moody blues were right. Love eternal will not be denied.